Alright folks, so in this video I'm going to talk about why there's no diversity in China or Taiwan. Well, it's pretty obvious, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion, that's all bullshit. It was never meant to work, and it never ever will. First of all, this is nothing new, right? Hundreds of years ago we had colonization from throughout the world. The British Empire was one of the most powerful empires in the history of humanity. But how did colonization work out? Every country in the world is different. When you go to China, right, you expect to meet local ethnic Chinese people. You expect to eat authentic Chinese food. And it's not going to be the same when you visit, let's say, Peru or Chile or Brazil. And if you go to another part of the world, if you visit Nigeria, you expect to see a different sets of people, different sets of culture, different sets of history. And these cultures, these traditions, these people were never meant to mix, okay? Look at how the United States is doing with multiculturalism. Look at what's happening to Sweden, right? They're bringing the military. The country has been completely destroyed. Look at what's happening in Germany. There are a woman getting raped in the middle of the day on the streets. And Canada is headed for the exact same place. Right now, Canada's immigration level, it's at 500,000 immigrants per year. That makes Canada the #1 country in the world in terms of taking in immigrants per capita. Canada only has 38 million people. Back in May, I visited the island of Taiwan, okay? Also, I'm going to cover Taiwan in much more extensive detail coming up because there are January elections coming up. Listen, Taiwan must be returned to China. It has to capitulate. That's their only option. They cannot continue to be allies with the US and rely on the West, right? Because the West, it's completely falling apart. So when I visited there, right, for example, if you take the subway there, it says no food or drinks on the subway. At first, I didn't realize this, right? I bought in bubble tea as I was walking. I started drinking. Well, nobody was looking at me, so I was curious, and I started reading the signs. I'm like, oh, so I better stop drinking this. So I put it, in the side pocket of my backpack. And I started looking around, right? Nobody had any kind of food or drink in their hands or in their pockets. Nobody was even chewing gum. If you go to Taiwan, just book a flight to Taipei. Same thing if you go to South Korea, go to Japan, right? If you hold a passport from a Western country, these places are all visa free for you to visit. You can go walk around for an entire day. Go walk around the city for 12 hours. You will not find a single piece of trash on the streets. Everything was sparkling clean. Okay, when you take the escalator, when I was at the train station, taking the subway, wherever you're going, right? Anybody that was in a rush, if you wanted to walk up or down the escalator, right, you will go to the left, right? That's for the walkers. And if you're in no rush, you just want to stand on the escalator, waiting for it to carry you up or down, then you stand on the right side. And you don't see anybody with blue or pink hair. You don't see any woman with crazy earrings, nose piercings, tattoos. You don't see any screaming Karens. That's how a woman's supposed to act. That's what a normal functioning civilization is supposed to look like. But once again, what do you think will happen? Let's say if Taiwan announced starting in 2024, we're going to take in 1 million immigrants a year for the next 5 to 10 years. What do you think will happen? And if you're asking me, well, aren't you an immigrant that's living in the West? Well, my story is a bit crazy. Like I said, I came from a family with over 20 divorces. There's some insanity in the past. It wasn't my choice. And I was brought over to Canada many years ago. But my goal right now is to leave within the next few years because I think Justin Trudeau has completely destroyed this country. And I honestly don't see a future of living in here. And let's be brutally honest, right? Pretty soon, white people will become minorities in almost every single country on earth. In Canada and the US, this will happen within less than 20 years, right? Australia, New Zealand, UK, France, probably next 30 to 40 years. And part of the reason why that's happening is that if you're wondering why, nobody voted for this, why are these countries so desperate as to bring so many immigrants? Well, one of the things I mentioned many times before is that for a society to survive and to thrive into future generations is that you have to have children, okay? No human civilization throughout the humans' 200,000 years of history and evolution has ever survived with a fertility rate of below 2, okay? The replacement rate is 2.1. Okay, right now in Canada, the fertility rate is 1.33, and that's with the immigrants bumping it up. The fertility rate for a white couple is below 1, less than half of the replacement rate. The country simply cannot survive and sustain itself. I mentioned this many times before, and China is facing a huge crisis as well, and they will have to make some drastic policy changes. And it starts with re-educating young women. I'll give you an example, right? And let's say China, its current population is projected to shrink to 700 million by 2100. People say, okay, well, that just means that China's population goes back to its original population in the 1950s. Well, no. China's population, even though back in 1950 it was 700 million, right? And the average age was 18. By 2100, when China's population goes back down to 700 million, the average age is going to be over 60. Right now, China's retirement age for men is 60, for women is 55. You're going to have a bunch of people that's laying in retired homes, that's collecting pensions and not paying taxes. There'll be very, very few people that's going to be in public schools, in universities. There's very few people that can be eligible to be drafted into the military, that can serve as police officers, emergency responders. What the hell is the country going to do then? That's the end of that civilization. And right now, for all the Western countries, the population is only increasing from immigration and taking in refugees.